Hi, everybody. It's Alex Jarett again with Technology Executives Club and another spotlight interview with my new friend, John Szeder. Hi, John. How are you?
Hello, hello. I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. It's good to see you. I know you do heavy engineering type of applications for both the game industry and the enterprise industry, and
Mhm.
it's a pleasure to have you involved. I know that you've worked in a lot of household names, actually, and so it's great to have you on today's spotlight interview, John.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. It's like one of the things I like to tell people about my journey is I'd like to help people who are solving interesting problems for big companies at scale that impact millions of people, whether they're game players or product users for stuff that they use in their everyday life.
Well, that's a great way to phrase it. I know both sides of the coin of the, enterprise as well as game industry. You've done that. When we first started talking, I remember you talked about revenue optimization for gaming companies, and I know you've done that with some big commercial clients as well in terms of revenue optimization. If I place, serving up ads and
Mhm.
or here's a piece of inventory that should be served up, right? That kind of thing. So you've done some amazing work. So let's get right into it. And, we talk about what you do for people. What would be sort of your one liner of like what you try and do for your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I've run engineering teams over 30 years now, oftentimes for venture-backed companies where it's really important to scale, right? So
Right.
I like to think of it as I build highly performant engineering teams very quickly and I retain them. So over the course of the time that I've been brought into companies, it's like, hey, we can't hire anybody, or we have 30% year over year churn. I will come in and build an engineering team, or I'll come in and understand what people are leaving for and then solve those problems so that the company has a higher retention rate for their staff.
I would think that would be extremely valuable, especially in these companies that they need to be fast growing. They need to have a lot of engineers because right now everything is going tech and you need great engineers to build it, right?
Mhm. Yep, that is true.
Yeah. So, what's your secret sauce on attracting and retaining teams?
A lot of it is spending time listening to people, right? And a lot of times when you've got somebody who's at an engineering organization and they've been there for a while, they don't see a path for growth, or they're not learning anything. People will hire at the top of the skill set to say, I'm going to hire somebody who's really good at this thing, and I'm going to put this in front of them, and then they're going to stick them there for 3 years, and 2.5 years into that person is already they have both feet out the door at that point because they're tired of it. So
Yeah.
sitting down and saying, why are you here? What is your 5 year plan? And what do you want to get out of working here above and beyond the paycheck? So tying things back to what's really good for your knowledge workers. And you hire these people, you pay them a bunch of money, and they're really smart. You want to improve them and give them bigger and bigger challenges. And a lot of people don't do that successfully for their teams.
That makes a lot of sense. Like you said, these are extremely bright people that we're talking about. So,
Mhm.
and big ticket engineers, they know they can be a gunslinger and move around if they need to, right?
Yeah, that is true. And they say people don't leave companies; they leave managers, right?
Yeah.
And I got a thing from HR at Zynga at one point for the most number of personal referrals inside of a year that they've seen from somebody at the entire company over its decade of existence. So
Yeah. It's
convincing
fun.
people to come and work for you again when they're struggling to get career growth is a really important thing.
Well, you brought up Zynga. I know that's one of your big name household names. For those of you in the enterprise, you can look them up. They're a huge company in gaming, right?
Yep.
And very successful. And what was your sort of story and how'd you help them?
Yeah. I was brought into Zynga because they had a centralized team that was all based in San Francisco, and they were looking at scaling the team, but also controlling cost and sitting down and going, okay,
Wow.
can we spin up a studio in Texas and a studio in Canada, both places where I have people I've worked with over the years, and reduce cost for the overall business and retain high quality for the level of talent. And over the course of 2 years, we finally had the team distributed between three locations, and brought the overall cost of the business down. At the same time, some of the people that I've worked with are high performers, and we had the distinction of creating the highest 100% uptime window of time in the product's 10-year history. For a
Wow.
product that's in the hundreds of millions of dollars, that uptime is significant,
It is.
especially for a real-time multiplayer game.
Yeah, because if you're not up, you're losing money, right?
Yeah, thousands of dollars per minute. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a great story. And again, this is one of those household names that if you're in the game industry, let's switch over to something else. I know another thing that you talked about, so we were getting ready for this, is not only do you build and retain these high performance teams, you also make sure that the engineering team is getting the right things done for the business. Tell me what you mean by that.
Absolutely. Early in my career, I was given an opportunity to join an enterprise sales team, and I spent a lot of time learning how to speak with customers and how to create business value. And I've translated that into a lot of success over the years across multiple companies, where you sit down and you explain to people what it is that the customer gets or what it is that the business gets out of their work, and training people to look at their work objectively and not get mired in I've got this cool 6-month project that I want to do because I want to learn this new technology, but more about this is what the customer needs and here's the business fundamentals that will improve as a result of doing this feature or adding this project to our stack and things that we do.
That's great.
Yeah, another great example of that is I spent some time working with Clorox, which is like a Fortune 500 company and has a tremendous amount of brands in every aisle of your local grocery store. Like, they have Hidden Valley Ranch and Kingstone Barbecue and Fresh Step Cat Litter and all these different things. And so, in the process of working there, we were building stuff that has everyday value for people, like building this is one of the places where I did additional revenue optimization work, building a couponing system that would sit down and take a look at when's the last time you updated your bread filter, right? And if you have if you've signed up with the Clorox brand, management, there we go, their brand management suite, and if you're on their mailing list and you haven't refreshed your filter in a little while, they'll send you a digital coupon that says, hey, here's a discount. And, if you haven't used that, then you'll get another one in a period of time later with a deeper discount. So systems like that are smart. So, that will get registered when you go and purchase the product and you use the digital coupon. It's unique. So it'll know and say, hey, this person is going to refresh their filter every 3 months or 6 months. And this is the interval at which we need to send them a coupon that's going to have a discount in addition to a reminder, so that there's more value for the consumer at the end of the day to go get a new filter.
Great. You've given us some great examples, both in the game side as well as the enterprise side, how this, I would say, heavy lifting type of engineering can help the business as well as the customers. This has been great. Now that AI is coming, or AI is here, but it's really coming as people learn how to use it. What is your vision of how you see AI being utilized in these heavy duty engineering types of applications that you work on?
It's a great question. My son, who's finishing school right now, started a company doing sports betting that is supplemented by AI. And it's really interesting because that's a great problem for AI to solve. And the big question is, you have to ask yourself, what problem are you solving? And is it something where you're going to use a lot of heavy data to get to a conclusion? So I've helped a few people doing some, dispatch fleet tracking where it was really valuable. And, with sports betting, that's all about the numbers and large pools of data. If you're setting something up and it doesn't have a large amount of data, is AI going to be helpful there? Right.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be helpful for every problem, but it's going to be helpful for a lot of them. And it's also a great supplement for creative processes and other things. Right? If you're building software, you can get subscriptions to AI tools that help you work 10 to 30% faster if you're a senior engineer, or 100% to 200% faster if you're a junior engineer.
Wow.
Because the amount of time it takes for you to learn stuff and put it into use, and the problems that you're solving, at a junior engineering level, you get this big of a boost. And then for doing really complicated stuff, it narrows down a little bit because you have to refine your queries and your strategies a lot. So there's a lot to be said for using it in a lot of different places, but you have to sit down and understand what the benefit is.
That's a great story. Sports betting. I mean, you can't watch ESPN where they have their own app now. It's everywhere. Listen, John, this has been a great interview. You said a lot in a very short amount of time. I would call you one of these brilliant engineers that does the heavy lifting, but what makes you unique is that ability to do it through teams.
Yeah.
And I didn't see a lot of that in the game industry, or frankly, in the enterprise industry. Kudos to you for learning the secret sauce of how to work with people, building teams quickly and keeping them, retaining them, and making sure that your teams are building engineering solutions for business issues that really matter to the company. That's a great mission to have and great skill set to have. Anyways, John, thank you. It's been another Spotlight interview. We appreciate you taking the time with me today.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.